Greetings, Doctor Wolfula here to present a very important special audio presentation that your ears cannot dare unlisten to. Does that make sense? Oh, it doesn't matter. Listen to this.
Shorty getting down, going up the fire pole. Radical, in the mitten where we mad cold. I got the bullfrog flow, you a tadpole. Feel the love, feel the rush, feel the buzz, let it brush ya. Bald eagle clutch on the mic.
Welcome to someone's favorite movie. I'm coming to you from the Podjack outside beautiful Flint, Michigan, USA. My name is Randy. And with me, the man who will meet you at the waterfront after the social, the human twist ending himself, the man they call Tomko. Hello, sir.
You can't tell it, but I've got a frozen grimace on my face.
I believe
exposed from the waist down to a shocking reveal.
Shit. Mrs. Tomko is such a lucky gal.
Isn't she, though?
Yeah, she is. You probably hiss, too, don't you? I knew it. You catty bastard. This week we're talking about... We always do this to ourselves, and because for some reason, we are into movie S&M. We like to punish ourselves.
We're masochistic viewers.
Yeah, we like to punish ourselves, something fierce. This week, we're tackling the Sleepaway Camp franchise. And I don't think I'm telling tales out of school when I say that this is probably the best horror franchise we've covered thus far. In the past, we've covered all of the Silent Night, Deadly Night movies and all of the Leprechaun movies. And I think
I'm struggling to defy you, sir, but I can't think of a better series that we've covered.
No, this is the cream of the crop so far. So I hope you're real excited to hear all about it.
And I have to admit, I was walking into this expecting to be pissed off at the waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
That was my mindset going into it.
Yeah. I mean, don't get us wrong. There is some waste of time, but it's not as bad as it could have been.
Oddly enough, yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, I had what did you know about Sleepaway Camp coming into this?
I knew the twist ending of the first movie, and that was it.
Yeah, me too. Now, I did knowing the twist ending of the first movie, which I assume that everyone else knows too. If you don't, tough shit. It's going to be spoiled for you.
Yeah, spoiling another 40-year-old movie here.
Yeah, that's what we do. Ruin the classics. Yeah, so even knowing the twist ending, did it ruin your enjoyment of the movie at all?
Not at all.
Yeah, me neither. Although part of me wished that I didn't know the twist ending because I was trying to figure out whether or not, did people not assume that Angela was the murderer in the movie? I thought it was fairly obvious, but then I'm like, well, you know what? You'd know the ending already, so...
Well, I mean, also, when was the last time a 12-year-old little girl was revealed to be a mass murderer?
Yeah, that's true, too. Good point.
Fine. But no,
you win.
But no, I fully expected to hate this movie. Just hate it. But I was oddly entertained.
Perfect. We like to be oddly entertained by the oddest things around here. here.
It's kind of our stock and trade here.
It is our stock and trade. But before we talk about the Sleepaway Camp movies, we have a little feature on this program. It's called What Are You Watching? Because I can't think of a better title. So what have you been watching, sir?
A couple days ago, I watched a documentary called Happy, Happy, Joy, Joy, The Ren and Stimpy Story.
Now, were you a fan of the Ren and Stimpy?
I think it's fair to say that I was a casual fan at best. I didn't hate them, but I didn't become obsessive with them the way a lot of people of my generation did.
Yeah, I didn't either. I always thought it was, when I was a kid, I always thought it was a little bit too weird for me.
Yeah.
Quite a few years ago, though, it used to be on Spike TV at like 2 a.m. when I was coming home from the bar on a regular basis. So I'd watch it then and be like, oh, yeah, this is the stuff right here. But I can't call myself a true fan or anything like that. But this documentary, I don't know, I read about it. I thought it would be quite interesting. Was it?
It was, because it kind of gave you a reminder of the state of animation at the time of its debut and how it was just kind of bland and sterile and used just for marketing purposes for toy companies. And say what you will about Ren and Stimpy, it was an original beast. There was nothing on television like that at the time. And it has gone on to inspire countless episodes of television since then. I think it's fair to say that you wouldn't have shows like Beavis and Butthead or South Park or Bob's Burgers or anything like that without Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah. The thing that used to trip me out about Ren and Stimpy is that the animation was kind of like crude and ridiculous. And then every so often there would be this ultra detailed like matte painting that would appear in the animation. I always thought that was so weird.
And those matte paintings were always disturbing.
Yeah, always. They were always creepy. Like you could do an entire artistic print series of those and have some really fucked up wall art.
Yeah, that's just begging to be turned into a coffee table book for somebody's demented little rec room.
I can't believe it hasn't already, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Honestly, I am too. But they kind of got into the behind the scenes drama surrounding the show. How the network, they knew that they were pushing the envelope, but they were still kind of naive about a lot of the hidden jokes. And the main creator, I can't pronounce this guy's name, I'm just going to call him John Kay, was a demented, obsessive, compulsive perfectionist. He had a rule for his animators: never draw the same face twice.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And he would spend weeks and weeks going over sequences. And if there was one little thing that he didn't like, the entire sequence was scrapped and they had to start all over again. And so if you remember right, there were stories coming out about how this show was consistently late. And eventually the network had to fire him. Well, it comes to find out that, surprise, surprise, he was a horrible boss to work under. And there was one quote in particular that I think we can all relate to as employees, where his underling said, "The criticism and comments that you're leveling at me are not working at making me a better artist. It's only succeeding in making me hate you." Again, I think we can all relate to that at some level.
Absolutely.
And to make matters even worse, it turns out that John Kay is kind of a sick fuck.
Yeah, that was the thing that stood out to me. Like he's into, I don't know what he's into. Why don't you tell me?
He is into underage teenage girls.
That's what I thought it was, but I didn't want to speak out of turn.
Yeah, it's enough to make me never really want to watch the show again.
Yeah.
You know? He used his success on the show to lure kids and groom them, and it's just he's a despicable person. He is rightfully blacklisted, and I don't want to say I wish ill on him, but I don't exactly wish good things for him either.
He's off.
Is that fair?
He's off your Christmas card list.
yeah, there will be no Bulldog Christmas card sent to John K's mailbox this year. And on top of that, after he was fired, he had pretty much free reign on his own creations, and they were just demented. Like truly fucked up. I can't remember the exact title of one, but involved pussy hunting somehow.
Yeah, I feel like he came out with some underground comic series at one point or something like that. It feels like there was, after Ren and Stimpy, he tried to come out with more subversive content, and it just nothing ever stuck or worked.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a testament to the people that he had working underneath him that were really, I think, the talent of the show. They took his ideas and were able to kind of refine it into something that was marketable, for lack of a better term. But when he was left to his own devices, it just got weird to the point of uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely well worth the watch. But if you have fond memories of Ren and Stimpy, you may want to avoid it.
I was always obsessed with Powdered Toast Man, which was the resident superhero on Ren and Stimpy.
Yes.
And in the Marvel comic book, Spider-Man fought Powdered Toast Man.
Yes, he did.
In an issue
I remember that issue.
By future all-star Amazing Spider-Man writer Dan Slott. So
yes. And if I remember right, I think I've read interviews where Dan Slott was genuinely proud of that achievement.
Yeah, he was very well. He pretty much considered it one of his only shots to ever write Spider-Man, and then he went ahead and wrote Spider-Man for, I don't know, close to a decade probably.
At least, yeah. He's become one of the defining writers of this era.
I mean, I would just kill to write a Powdered Toast Man comic book, but, let alone Spider-Man,
Well, I think you need to, write in a pitch for Marvel comic books. I'm sure they still have the rights.
Do you think
no one's using the property?
Yeah, that's true. What have I been watching? Okay, so I watched this movie called Palm Springs on Hulu.
Okay.
It stars Andy Samberg and Christina Milioti, I believe her name is, and also J.K. Simmons, who plays a cranky curmudgeon.
Really? What a stretch for him.
I know, right? So, if you go back into our archives when we covered the movie 12:01 p.m., that movie was about Red from that 70s show getting stuck in a time loop. And it really, we analyzed that movie and compared it to Groundhog Day because there was a lot of similarities there between the two. Palm Springs is another addition to the time loop genre of movies. It's kind of it's a comedy, but it's not like a stupid, sorry, Adam Sandler, but it's not like a stupid Adam Sandler type comedy. It's actually a comedy with heart. And the difference in this one is that rather than one person being stuck in a time loop and reliving the same day over and over again, Andy Samberg actually accidentally drags two people into the time loop over and over again. And so rather than try to, like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day, trying to woo the woman over one day, he basically has an eternity to woo the woman. However, it doesn't work quite the same way because he can't really pick up on all her tricks and what likes and dislikes and all of that. And
now, is the woman that he's trying to woo one of the people that he also dragged into the time loop?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, so that wouldn't work.
Nope, not at all. And J.K. Simmons, he accidentally drug into the time loop one day, and when they got drunk and partied together, and now J.K. Simmons spends all of eternity trying to murder him in horrible ways.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and obviously once J.K. Simmons murders him, the time loop resets, but it's just it gives J.K. Simmons' character great pleasure.
So basically, J.K. Simmons is a hell demon torturing this guy for all of eternity.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's a really good movie. It's definitely more of a romantic comedy than anything, But it's one of those romantic comedies that has a little bit more to say. There's plenty of existential angst and what's the meaning of all this and what's the point and blah, blah, blah. It was I was pleasantly surprised because I don't expect much from Andy Samberg.
No.
I read about this and saw it. I'm like, I'll check this out, and I'm glad I did. So everyone should watch Palm Springs.
I think that might be the theme of this episode. We're pleasantly surprised because we just don't expect much.
Yeah, it's good to be pleasantly surprised. Like
Yeah.
After the year we're all having, it's good to be pleasantly surprised because at this point, none of us expect anything. So,
yeah, summer of 2020 has been, I don't want to say an interesting one because mainly it's just involved sitting around the house, but it's definitely been one to remember.
and it went by so fast, which I can't figure out. Like, I didn't do anything. Like, I did a lot of walking outside and probably getting melanoma from all the time spent in the sun. But that's about all I did.
I can't say that. I actually did take a small little trip up to northern Michigan. This year was Mrs. Tomko's and my 20th birth-versary, so we had to do something to commemorate it.
Wow. Look at you.
Yes. And for those of you who don't know what birth-versary is, we got married on my birthday. So I would never forget the date of our anniversary. She'd never forget my birthday. And we got married in the year 2000 so that we always know how many years we've been married. It's one of my life's greatest achievements.
Wow. How stressed were you trying to pull all the strings to make that happen, to make it all fall into place perfectly?
It just kind of fell into my lap. There wasn't any stress involved at all. I suggested it to Mrs. Tomko, and she loved the idea. So at the wedding, we had the traditional wedding cake and a birthday cake. It was pretty awesome. But no, we spent 4 days in northern Michigan. We went to various touristy spots. I did a little tour of microbreweries, and it was well needed just to kind of get out of the house and relax, but also have, the following 2 weeks wondering whether or not I picked anything up while I was up there. So
yeah,
thankfully, so far, no coughing yet.
Yeah, that's life's little surprise party for you. Michigan was like, here's your birthday present / anniversary present. You don't know if you're going to be sick or not. Da, da, da.
It's kind of like having the world's scariest present underneath the tree that you don't want to open.
Yeah, right? Ugh.
Yeah. I'd say that was the 2 weeks after we got home from birth-versary.
I have had kind of a rough couple weeks because my beloved computer is slowly dying, passing away on me.
Oh no!
And that's been an old friend to me for so long, and I can't bear it apart because we have so many memories together. AKA, there's so much shit on there I need to get off before it dies. And I mean,
time to buy an external hard drive and a new laptop is what you're saying.
Well, I have like so many laptops because I'm weird. So I already have a backup and stuff. I do need an external hard drive to get all the crap off. But I mean, searching, like looking for the problem online, Googling it is like looking at WebMD. Like all the answers are just foreboding, terrifying and scary. And you're like, oh, this can't be happening to me. Why me? Why me, Lord?
Well, I mean, the good news is that technology has dropped in price so much and so quickly. It's like you can get an 8 terabyte hard drive for what, $150 now?
Yeah, that's insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, come on. And if you can fill that up, my hat's off to you, sir or madam.
Meanwhile, what's hilarious to me is I'm currently, as we speak, in fact, staring lovingly at my MacBook from 2005, which is still running perfectly, and recording this very program as we speak. While my
2005, I'm impressed.
While my 2010 model is taking a shit on me. So
15 years with the same laptop. That is, I am humbled by that kind of technology, sir.
I mean, I basically only use it as a glorified, the world's most expensive recording device. But I mean, it still works. So why not?
More power to you.
More power to me. I agree with that statement. Give me all the power, please. And now I'm going to use that power, and I'm going to use it responsibly, because we're going to talk about Sleepaway Camp right now.
Yes. And again, I did not expect this to be a responsible use of your power, sir.
I know.
I really thought this was going to be just awful. I thought it was going to be Leprechaun level of bad.
This was a request from somebody, was it not?
I think it was.
Yeah. I think it was on the Jake and Tom Conquer the Group that somebody requested this.
It may very well have been. Yes, sir.
I don't remember who it was, but this is for you, person.
You're welcome, stranger.
Yeah. Give us some more suggestions,
yes,
citizen.
By all means, do. Yeah.
Yeah, by all means. Did you ever go to a sleepaway camp or summer camp of any sort?
No, and I always wanted to. Both of my older brothers did when they were around the age of between like 10 and 12. And by the time I was of age, we were just in a completely different life situation, and it just never happened. I suppose the closest I came to it was spending a summer on Mackinac Island working at a hotel.
Well, that's pretty sweet, actually.
Do you think so? Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I can just imagine all the wacky hijinks young Tomko got himself into.
Hijinks aplenty. Yes, sir.
I knew it. I never went to a summer camp or sleepaway camp or anything like that. I did have a friend in 5th grade that all he could talk about was the previous summer's camp experience, like how great it was and it was the best time and how many friends he made and blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, guy, I get it. You're amazing and your experience was amazing.
He had a Canadian girlfriend, didn't he?
He must have. I don't know. I don't know. He was just real excited about the experience. So we actually, that 5th grade class took a field trip to a camp, and we stayed there overnight as a class. And okay. I remember that the camp counselors at the place, they were very much like the camp counselors at Sleepaway Camp. With one exception, there was a dude that looked and talked like Sylvester Stallone, so we called him Rocky, and he didn't like it. You'd think he would have been flattered. You'd think he would have heard that before, because he was the spitting image, I tell you. Maybe it was Frank Stallone, and we just didn't know. That's why he was so upset.
I was going to say, that's about the only logical person who would get upset at that comparison.
Right. It might have been Frank Stallone. So, yeah, I definitely went to a camp for a field trip, and Frank Stallone was my camp counselor. So there you go. That's a great story. Sleepaway Camp takes place, well, it opens with a horrific tragedy where 2 hot young teens are grab-assing on a speedboat, and they mow down a father and one of his 2 children that are swimming beside the father, but you're not sure which one survives.
No, because the next scene they show the surviving child with their head wrapped in bandages, correct?
Yeah, and so you can't really tell the gender because there was a boy and a girl there. You're not sure which one survived. We flash forward 8 years later, and we meet Angela, who appears to be the surviving sibling, and she's living with her aunt, Dr. Martha, and her cousin Ricky.
And Dr. Aunt Martha might be one of the most over-the-top characters I've ever seen in a movie.
For sure. Like, right off the bat, the tone that scene sets for this movie is very unsettling. It was very weird and off-putting and creepy. like, ooh, I don't know if I can. This kind of creeps me out here.
Yeah, because you could tell that. I don't know if it was creepy. I don't know if that's the word, but it was just. You could tell that this lady had some bats in her belfry. You know, she was not all there.
Yeah. As a great aunt taking care of young Angela and Ricky, she decides to send let's start that sentence over. She decides to send the kids to a sleepaway camp, Camp Arawak, which you would think would be a horrible idea considering Angela's father and sibling died at some sort of camp setting. You would think that would I don't know, bring up awful memories, but I guess
it was the 80s.
What
do we know about childhood trauma back then?
Yeah, what do we know? So they go to sleepaway camp and murders ensue.
And you know, I would imagine that if I were one of the audience members that originally saw this, I could see where there might be a little bit of ambiguity as far as who the actual killer was, because Angela's cousin was oddly protective of her.
Yeah, that's true.
So I could see it a plausible case being made for somebody who thought maybe the cousin was the killer.
Yeah. Behind the scenes, Felissa Rose was only 13 when she made this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And her mother wasn't fond of her being shown killing people. So Ricky technically was the murderer because in all the scenes where you see the hands, those are his hands. Because her mom was like, no, I don't want her doing that.
Okay. Did she not know what she was signing her daughter up for?
Right? Kind of odd. Like, you do realize you signed your daughter up to be in a slasher movie, right?
Yeah, they aren't exactly known for being high art.
The one scene that it's fairly obvious that Ricky is doing all the actor playing Ricky is the stunt double, hand double, whatever. There's a scene near the end of the movie where you see Angela you see the killer in silhouette in the door. And it's clearly Ricky in a wig.
Now, what did you think about like the practical effects in this movie? Because I have to admit, I was I walked into it expecting it to be awful, but I was kind of impressed with the effects in this movie.
The practical effects were really good, I thought.
They were definitely. I mean, I don't think there's anything in this movie that's going to really be scary by today's standard, but the craftsmanship was definitely on display in this movie. I thought that the burn scene where the guy was scalded by the water was really effectively done. I thought the kid's washed up body that drowned in the lake was pretty grody.
Yeah.
I had to kind of chuckle at the bee attack effect because it's just so damn ridiculous. But if you go into it expecting kind of, no pun intended, a campy, schlocky horror movie, it fits in that criteria quite nicely.
Yeah, that scene got a little bit Looney Tunes for me. There's a scene where one of the bullies, because nobody seems to like Angela in this camp. They're all picking on her because she's very introverted. She doesn't try to interact with anybody else. So all the kids want to make fun of her because that's how kids are. They're rotten assholes.
They are.
Yeah. So one of the bullies goes to the bathroom and he's sitting there and you see a beehive slowly enter the window above the toilet and the beehive starts to shake.
Stall door is locked.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous.
Which, I mean, you'd figure that wouldn't be too difficult to escape.
No, crawl underneath the stall, for crying out loud.
Crawl underneath the stall, hop onto the toilet, and then kind of leapfrog into the next stall. You'd figure that your wits would be about you enough to save your life in that situation.
Stand on top of the toilet and climb out the window, because clearly it's right there.
Yeah, and the screen had been slashed.
Yeah.
Now, going back to something that you'd said, not all of the kids were picking on Angela.
No, there's one that seemed to have a crush on her, rightfully so, because Felissa Rose is very beautiful. And what did you think of her performance?
It's not an Oscar caliber performance by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
But again, for this level of movie and for a child actor in a very cheap, very obviously rushed production, I thought it went above and beyond what you would expect it to be.
She definitely has a screen presence to her.
She does. She absolutely does.
And it bums me out that this was pretty much it for her. She wasn't in anything else. And that's a shame, really. I
see where this role would have been the best and worst thing for her career.
Yeah. I did watch a documentary from Shout Factory on the movie, and her mom said that she was bullied in real life at school because of the ending. And yeah, I guess she did read for Sleepaway Camp II, but decided against it, decided to go to college instead, which, I don't know. Maybe that was a good idea. Maybe it wasn't.
I think that was probably the best thing for her, in all honesty.
But she does have a presence, and just her 1,000-yard stares that she gives throughout the movie. And even when she does actually have some lines, she's got a sweetness to her. She definitely has that sort of movie star charisma to her.
Well, not only that, but you feel sympathy for the character.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But to your point, there's at least one camp member that develops a crush on her, a sweet boy named Paul, and he seems like the best guy ever, in fact. And he actually drags Angela out of her introverted state. She begins talking to him, and mainly just him. Like she doesn't even talk to cousin Ricky. She's muted around him too. So there was something about that Paul that really brought out the.
He was dreamy.
He was so dreamy, that feathered hair, you know. The one thing I do like about this movie is all of the actors are actually of age. Like they're all clearly 14 to 18-year-olds instead of 30-year-olds with weird hair.
Yeah.
Like you see in slasher movies all throughout the 80s. That's the one thing about slasher movies in the 80s that I can't get over is the hairstyles in these movies were not real things. They couldn't have been, because I lived through the 80s. I don't remember anybody with some of these freakishly styled hair.
I do. I remember.
Do you really?
Yes. I remember being a little kid seeing these ladies with huge hair while smoking, and I kept waiting for like a cherry to kind of go from the cigarette butt to their hair, and they just go up like firestorm.
Yeah, there's actually some lines in this movie that made me chuckle, like at the one point where the kid said, eat shit and die, Ricky. And he responds back, eat shit and live. And I found that so funny.
That's actually kind of good.
Yeah, I'm like, that's something that a kid would actually say. And I actually laughed out loud. I'm like, oh, that was clever. I like that. This was Robert Hiltzick's student film, basically. This was his film right out of film school. Pretty much the only one he did until Return to Sleepaway Camp. Which
really?
Yeah. He started work on other projects after this, got disillusioned with the Hollywood system, and went to law school instead. Which is
we'll get to that one.
Yeah, which is also kind of a shame because this is fairly strong, especially for a slasher movie. So I would have been interested to see what he could have done with youth on his side and passion and whatnot.
Yeah, or even just, proper support from a studio or a decent budget. There was definitely potential in everyone involved in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to talk about the owner of the camp?
Yeah, I was going to get... So the Sleepaway Camp movies, all of them really, and this one in particular too, they all have a creepy psychosexual nature to them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of creepers and pedophilia and underage shenanigans, and it seems like all of them feature a creepy old man and some buxom young lass that's ready to jump his bones. Which is, I don't know why that's a thing, but that's the one thing that Sleepaway Camp decided they needed to keep as a franchise. Let's latch our horse onto that one.
Well, the thing that kind of stuck out in my head, at least on the opening chapter, was just the unraveling of this particular owner, where he's having all of these accidents and deaths occurring on his watch, and parents are pulling their kids out of the camp for the summer. He's facing financial ruin, and he's taking all of his frustrations out on this boy who, I mean, from an outsider's point of view, there's no real reason to think that he's done anything bad, but he's ready to kill this kid.
Yeah. Yeah. It basically culminates in a scene where he literally beats the shit out of Ricky, like is on top of him, pounding on him.
Yes.
And you're not quite sure if he actually kills Ricky or not. You're based on this movie anyways. We'll see Ricky again in Return to Sleepaway Camp, but as far as this movie is concerned, you're not sure if he like beat him to death or not. And then he gets an arrow in the neck, so that serves him right.
Yeah. And again, another pretty decent practical effect for its time and budget.
Yeah. So I don't think it's as... obviously, everyone knows that Angela's the killer.
And at this point, we also know Angela's true nature. Everybody who would listen to a show like this has to know about this, shocking reveal at the end.
Yeah. The thing that bothers me, there's a few things that bother me. One, there's not really a clear motivation as to why Angela would just start murdering people.
Because she's crazy.
Because she's cray-cray.
That's the only motivation you need.
I guess. She does only take out... Well, that's not even true. It would be true except for one scene. I was going to say she does only take out the people that are bullying her or pick on Ricky or anything like that. However, she does slaughter an entire group of young kids, like 8-year-olds in sleeping bags, which is a scene that makes no sense. Like, why would she do that?
Yeah, I was wondering about that myself. I think that was probably just something that they decided to add in order to build up the body count.
Yeah. In fact, Robert Hiltzik in subsequent interviews said that's the one scene in the movie that he wishes wasn't in there because he's not even sure why he did that. The other thing that really bothers me, so Angela and Paul's relationship is starting to blossom, we'll say, and Paul kisses her. And Angela has a flashback. So in the beginning scene, when her dad was killed, there was also another man on the beach, a witness to this, and you think that it's a family friend or, I don't know, a colleague or something. But when Paul kisses Angela, she flashes back to when her and her sibling, her brother, witnessed their father in bed with this guy. And they were shirtless and lovingly caressing each other. You wonder... like, why is that scene in this movie?
Well, all will be revealed.
Based on what's to come, why is that scene in that movie? Like, is that why you're so confused about your gender identity? Because you saw your gay father with his gay lover?
I'm sure that was what was going through the character's mind as far as why she was so hesitant to move her relationship with Paul to a physical nature. Again, do we want to just go out and say what the big reveal is?
Yeah, sure.
Angela is not Angela. It's actually the brother.
Angela is actually Peter.
Yes. The crazy aunt was so desperate to have a daughter that she dressed Peter up as a girl and raised her as a girl. I think the flashback was triggered by another boy kissing her. That's the only thing I could think of.
Oh, that's a good point. I never thought of that. Like, I was immediately...
I don't know on a social level how to feel about this movie.
Right.
Just because it's the trope of the gay serial killer, which it's a very, very delicate balancing act to pull off. It's, something that can make you look foolish and pig-headed if you don't do it right. And even if you do it right, you're still courting controversy. I think that this was probably something that they just wrote to try to think of something shocking that would blow people's minds back in the early 80s, and it succeeded. I don't know what to feel about that, though.
Robert Hiltzik has said that he basically came up with the ending first. Like, he wanted something that would be shocking, something that would be memorable, and that's what he came up with, and basically wrote the movie around that.
I will give him credit. All of the subsequent, or I should say the previous scenes do line up to the reveal. It didn't feel like it just came out of nowhere.
No, not at all. Not at all. So the movie ends with, Angela has discovered that Paul has been making out with some other girl in the camp, and she does not like that. Not at all. I mean, you find this dreamy boy, and he's smooching on that trollop Judy, Well,
not only that, but he was the only person other than her cousin that treated her decently, and he goes and does a shitheel thing like that.
So obviously, Angela's only response would be
to cut his fucking head off.
Well, before that, she rapes Judy with a curling iron while smothering her because, of course. And then, she cuts Paul's head off, and
while nude for some reason.
No, because I think it was Paul that said, "Do you want to go skinny dipping?" No, it was Angela. Angela suggested they go skinny dipping because earlier in the movie, Paul tried to get fresh with her, and she was like, "Oh no, not on this day," because she wanted to keep her secret a secret. And she suggested they go skinny dipping. Ronnie and Susie walk up onto the beach. They're both camp counselors. They find her stroking his decapitated head. She leaps to her feet. Angela does. She's holding a knife. And Ronnie says, "My God, she's a boy."
And can I just say that as much praise as I've given the practical effects in this movie, that last shot just kind of is awful because it's obviously some short, skinny guy with a bad latex makeup and wig.
So Angela grimaces, hisses, and the last scene of the movie is her genitalia, her male genitalia. To do that effect, they made a mold of her face, a very bad mold of her face.
Very bad.
And they apparently put it on some local college boy's body who they had to get drunk in order.
I was going to say they probably gave him $20 in a case of beer.
Yeah, he had to get drunk to do it because otherwise he couldn't. And by the way, if you're that guy, please stand up. Like, come out and be like, "Hey, that was me in Sleepaway."
Yes, we would love to talk to you.
Yes, please. But because that mask is so bad, it makes that final scene so memorable to me because it's a combination of the reveal and the fact that the practical effect was so awful.
Yes, I mean, it's schlocky, but it's schlocky in a cheesy 80s horror kind of way. I mean, this would be a great post-bar movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure. Then we get to Sleepaway Camp II, and something weird happens.
Yeah. Again, I expected this to be every single time I hit play on a new chapter, I was expecting to hate it.
Uh-huh.
I didn't hate this one.
I didn't hate it either. It's a completely different...
It's kind of funny.
It's kind of it's almost a horror parody, actually.
Yes.
It's a completely different tone. Whereas the first movie was like really dark and psychosexual and like moody.
It tried to be scary.
Yeah, this
Didn't really succeed, but at least it tried.
Yeah, this one is like Batman 66 of the Sleepaway Camp series. It's like, let's be
yes,
fun.
that is a perfect description.
Let's be fun and schlocky and weird and drop one-liners. And let's basically forget everything about that first movie. Because Angela is basically a completely different character in this movie. It's not the same character.
Yes.
So first off, Angela is not played by Felissa Rose in this movie. She's played by Pamela Springsteen. Yes. Related to that, Bruce. Related to the boss.
She is, really?
Yeah, that's Bruce's sister.
No kidding.
You didn't know that?
No, I did not.
Yeah, that's Pamela Springsteen, Bruce Springsteen's sister. Pamela is now a well-accomplished photographer and actually provided a lot of photographs for Bruce's albums and stuff.
I am dying to know what the boss's opinions on these next two movies are.
I tried. I tried to find an interview where he mentioned it or brought it up, and I couldn't find anything. I was so bummed.
He has to have seen them, and he has to have thoughts. I'm dying to know what those are.
Oh, I guarantee he's seen them. I guarantee.
Are they kind of like the dark family secret that you don't talk about with the rest of the E Street Band?
It's got to be. Or whenever they want to give them shit, they bring it up.
They sing the Happy Camper song to him on stage.
Yeah. Did you see the original theatrical poster for this?
I don't believe I did. The only one I saw was where Angela has the backpack and you see hockey mask, you see Jason's glove, and there was something else in there, wasn't there?
Yeah, that's the theatrical poster for Sleepaway Camp II, Unhappy Campers. And I think the poster is a good indicator about what you're going to get
into when you look at that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, oh, look at this girl. She's got a backpack full of Jason's hockey mask and Freddy's glove, which actually come to play in the movie, believe it or not. I couldn't believe it, but they come to play in the movie. As if Pamela Springsteen wasn't enough, we also have Renee Estevez in the movie as the final girl, Molly. Yes.
Are you saying that she's related to Martin Sheen, Charlie Sheen, and Emilio?
I am saying that her brother is Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez, and her father is Martin Sheen. That is what I'm saying.
Oh my God!
Right? Yeah, this is like
I just
royalty.
Hope that everybody in the family was invited to that rap party.
Man, that would have been a rap party.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah. Oh, can you imagine Charlie Sheen watching this movie?
I can imagine Charlie Sheen doing a lot of blow with hookers in the room watching this movie.
So this movie apparently takes place 5 years after the first movie. And
that's where it was kind of weird because that would have made Angela what? 17?
Yeah, 17, 18, something like that.
She's clearly not 17 in this movie.
No, clearly not. The movie starts there. Some girl is telling the story of Angela and the events at Camp Arawak around a campfire to scare the other her camp mates or whatever they're called. And her head counselor, who is Angela, says, "Go back to your cabin." And of course, Angela murders her right there. And right off the bat, there's no mystery or anything. We're just with Angela the whole time. This movie and Sleepaway Camp 3 are really interesting to me because in both the movies, I mean, we're with Angela the whole time. Like, I would say she's still the protagonist, except the protagonist is clearly the killer. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there is a final girl, quote unquote, in this movie, but she's not the main character at all.
No.
I mean, it's kind of refreshing because honestly, when you're watching Friday the 13th, you don't much care about all the little shits. You care about Jason when you watch it.
Exactly. You don't go there because you want to see Corey Haim kill Jason.
No.
You want to see everybody die before Corey Haim takes him out.
Yeah, so I thought it was interesting that these movies are like, well, let's cut out the middleman and just follow Angela the whole time. I'm on board. Why not?
Yeah.
And Pamela Springsteen is great in this movie. She's funny and adorable, and it worked for me. I think she gives a good performance.
I would agree. The only thing that I think is lacking that was lost from the first movie is I don't have any sympathy for the character.
No.
But it's kind of hard to have sympathy for the character that is slaughtering an entire campground.
There's kind of actually a motivation given to Angela's actions. She just punishes bad campers. That's it. The one thing I don't like is she underwent sexual reassignment surgery, so she's fully a woman now. I'm like, that's the one thing that made her interesting in the first place. Why would you could have went so many places with that, but you didn't. You just got rid of it because you were uncomfortable, I guess. I don't know. Do you have any favorite kills from this movie?
Oh, I would say the chainsaw.
The chainsaw. So yeah, that's
just because they managed to, spoof another movie in this one.
I thought that was clever and hilarious. So
yeah,
at one point, two of the campers decide to play a prank on Angela because they think she's so weird. She's the weirdest counselor there, so we're gonna scare her. So they dress up as Freddy and Jason, and kind of backfires this plan. Angela actually kills one of them with Freddy's glove, and then the kid she kills, she wears his face and kills the other one like Leatherface with a chainsaw.
Exactly.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Pretty great. You can tell this is a late 80s slasher movie because there is a lot of DNA in this movie.
Yes, there is.
Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3 both feature a big-breasted woman that loves to never wear a shirt.
I would say that and I'm not passing judgment. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'd say that this ventures into the exploitation territory of horror.
Yeah, this is the point of the 80s where slashers started to get really weird and campy.
Mm-hmm.
Like we didn't do anything with it yet, but remember I made you watch Slumber Party Massacre and Slumber Party Massacre 2?
Yes. Yes, I do, sir.
So Slumber Party Massacre 1 is like Sleepaway Camp. And then Slumber Party Massacre 2 is like Sleepaway Camp 2.
On mescaline.
So in Slumber Party Massacre, there's a killer and a slasher, and it's kind of tense and whatever, and grounded in reality. And the second one,
they say, fuck that.
They're like, reality? What's that? Here's a joint.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you what it's laced with, but smoke it. And the second one features a dream killer with a guitar that's also a drill. My words don't give it justice.
The metaphor isn't subtle in that movie.
No. My words don't give it justice. Trust me. I think my favorite kill in this movie is the outhouse scene. It's really gross.
Oh, yes.
The girl, Allie, that's constantly exposing her boobs to everybody. Angela decides to punish her for being a shitty camper and forces her down a outhouse and drowns her in pee-pee and poopy and leeches too. Really gross. Really uncomfortable. And the ongoing plot throughout the movie, whenever one of the campers goes missing, Angela says, well, I just sent them home because they weren't paying attention. And the head counselors are like, you can't do that. She's like, oh, well, I did.
And eventually she gets fired because she's costing the camp revenue.
Yep. And then it kind of leaves the campiness behind for a bit and becomes an outright slasher movie, I think, in the end.
Yeah, I think that would be fair to say.
So Angela has been holing up in a cabin in the woods, kind of isolated cabin, and all the bodies of the people she's killed are like there on display like trophies, kind of.
Which, honestly, I have to admit, I was kind of, I don't want to say happy to see, but I'm glad that they at least kind of closed that loophole, because I kept wondering to myself, somebody's going to find these bodies.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah. It was good that they actually did that. They made a point. I mean, I'm not going to say it's the most clever freaking screenplay ever written, not even close, but at least they dotted their I's and crossed their T's and kind of made sure everything made some sort of sense.
Yes.
In the end, there's only one survivor, and it's Molly until the very end. When Molly is hitchhiking, a driver picks her up, and it's Angela. Dun, dun, dun. And then she screams in the end.
Yep.
Would you...
It just kind of ends.
Just kind of ends. Same way as Sleepaway Camp 1. Just ends. We have the scene of Angela with the grimace on her face, her wiener out, and then it ends. You have no idea what happens after that. Like, you don't know. Does she just stand on that beach for 3.5 hours hissing at everybody? Like, what goes on? No one knows. No one can tell us.
No, I could definitely see people not wanting to get too close to that.
It's funny because Angela is basically just this woman, a small petite woman, and she just mows through all these people with no problem at all. Girl power.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's how they should market these movies, girl power. 1 year later, Sleepaway Camp III, Teenage Wasteland comes out. It was filmed back-to-back with Sleepaway Camp II. So there was pretty much no rest for the wicked there. What did you think of this one?
Of the original three, I'd say this is probably my least favorite.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just, I don't know. I think it's just a kill count for the sake of kill count. There was no wit. There wasn't a lot of stuff that made me chuckle. I didn't feel particularly entertained. It was just watching bodies stack up upon bodies.
Yeah, it was. I almost wish that they took a year off or something.
Well, I mean, even from the opening scene where you have the troubled youth who is waking up and she immediately undresses
Right
in front of the camera, and I can't remember what the tattoos on her cleavage said, but it's like, okay, this is what we're in for. Let's just kind of buckle down and see where it takes us. I didn't hate it, but of the original three, I think this is the one that I probably won't go back to revisit ever again.
Yeah, me neither. I really think they shouldn't have filmed them back to back. I think even Pamela Springsteen in this movie doesn't have the energy she does in the second one.
No, it doesn't.
It was written and directed by the same people, but it doesn't have the same fun energy that the second one does.
Well, I think there's only so much that you can do with this premise before it just kind of peters out.
Yeah, I mean, basically the premise of this is the same as the premise of the second one.
Yeah,
I think
we have a demented, happy camper who just wants to have good campers, and none of the people that she sees are good enough in her view, so she just decides to lay waste to everyone.
Which is ironic to me because she hated camping, and
let's face it, she was a bad camper.
Yeah. She was the worst camper. I wouldn't want to bunk with her. She'd rape me with a curling iron. That's no way to have fun.
No. You're supposed to weave baskets and row boats.
Yeah.
Not attack people with, hornets' nests.
I think my favorite scene in this movie is the opening scene that you started to describe, where the girl, the troubled teen, is getting ready for camp, and she goes down to the bus stop or whatever to get on it.
And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, wasn't it like a dump truck?
A dump truck.
Starts chasing after her down an alley and just mows her down.
Yeah, and it's Angela. And Angela takes this girl's identity to go to camp, which leads to a lot of haha jokes about, aren't you too old to be in camp? And she's like, oh, I've lived a hard life.
I would say that was probably the best kill in the entire movie. I don't know. This one's just awfully forgettable.
It is forgettable. They try to have a premise. They try real hard. The premise is they're going to a camp, Camp New Horizons, and the goal of this camp is to weave in rich kids with troubled inner city youths and see what happens, basically. That's the premise. But it's just an excuse to get a diverse cast together that Angela can murder for the most part.
Yeah. You got every 1980s preppy and inner city stereotype. You have the lazy wasp older couple that are the owners that don't do anything. Well, the lady doesn't do anything. The husband's just this skeevy guy, trying to get into young girls' pants.
And again, a big-breasted young girl is totally into getting that old man sex. I think one of my favorite kills in this one is
the lawnmower.
The lawnmower is definitely memorable. That one freaked me out. Also, just because it was out of nowhere and kind of mean and spiteful, I guess. There was a scene in the early parts of the movie where a news reporter is interviewing all the new campers, and the news reporter asks Angela if she could get her some cocaine, and Angela says sure and gives her some Ajax, which the reporter promptly snorts up on her way home, and it doesn't end well for her.
That and the flagpole scene.
Yeah.
Where she basically strings a camper up by the neck, raises her on the flagpole all the way to the very top, and just lets go and splat.
There is a bit of like mythology in this movie, though. There's a cop that's at the camp acting as a camp counselor, and his son was actually in the previous movie and was murdered by Angela. So he's kind of on a vendetta to find her and take her down and avenge his son. And
he doesn't. He fails miserably.
He doesn't. Yeah, it was a good idea, and I love that it was there.
But it just went absolutely nowhere. I mean, you'd figure that the movie would come down to a showdown between the two. No, she just shoots him.
She shoots him. That's how uninspired that plot line was. Like, you could have done anything with that. It was actually one of the most interesting concepts in the movie. And then she just flat out shoots him. Like,
yeah, I mean, you could have taken that entire section out and the movie wouldn't be any worse for wear.
At the end of the movie, there's two campers left, Marcia and Tony, who are kind of a couple. She's kind of a rich, snooty bitch, and he's like a inner city angry guy. So I guess the camp concept is working because everyone's commingling and getting along great. So they're together. Angela decides to let those two live, but Marcia kind of snaps and stabs Angela like a bunch of times. And
you think that, that would be enough to finally do her in.
But it's not.
But no.
No. Marcia and Tony call the cops. An ambulance is taking Angela to the hospital, and she promptly wakes up after getting stabbed like 87 times and stabs a paramedic and a policeman with some syringe. And the ambulance driver says, "What's going on back there?" And Angela says, "Just taking care of business." So funny. But my favorite part of that is like when Marcia and Tony are successful and victorious, and Tony's like, "All right, we can live happily ever after." And Marcia's like, "I have a boyfriend back home." I thought that was great.
I don't know. Is there really anything else to say about this movie?
Nope, that's it. It's definitely forgettable.
I will say that it's an amazing masterpiece compared to Return to Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah. Before Return to Sleepaway Camp, there was Sleepaway Camp IV, The Survivor, which we didn't watch, but I read about.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. Shit.
It is a thing. It's barely a thing. So essentially they filmed 20 minutes of it, and the movie studio went bankrupt in the middle of filming it. So they had 20 minutes of footage, and it remained basically in limbo for years and years. the internet is good for a lot of things. One of the things it's really great for is giving nerds a place to properly nerd out. And when you get a properly motivated nerd, boy, they could do some things. So eventually in
If only they would use their powers for good.
God, it's never the case. Like in this case, in 2012, Sleepaway Camp IV, The Survivor, was finally released, but it used archival footage from the first 3 films. And so basically what we got is Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, but a less entertaining version of it. In Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, we have Ricky, who's batshit insane crazy, but also we've got the entire first movie in there too because the studio didn't want to spend a lot of money. In this one, we have 20 minutes of footage, and the rest is all shit you've seen before. But the basic plot is 4 years after the Sleepaway Camp III, a girl named Allison is having nightmares about a camp she attended. She can't figure out why she keeps having these nightmares. She runs into a ranger that tries to help her find this camp that she went to as a kid that's the cause of all of her nightmares. Do you see where this is going? The girl is actually Angela. That she's got amnesia. Apparently, after the 3rd film, she was knocked out by the ambulance driver, and that gave her amnesia. Who knows where that movie was actually headed? That's the 20 minutes they had and what they pieced together and whatever. Like, it's not even a real thing, really.
Still sounds better than Return to Sleepaway Camp.
Return to Sleepaway Camp is the worst movie I've ever seen. It was released direct-to-video.
And it felt like direct-to-video in all the worst ways.
Like, even the shit that's... Releasing things direct-to-video these days is putting stuff directly on Hulu and Netflix. And that shit is miles beyond what we have here.
Yeah. And you know how I was saying I think I may have enjoyed the first 2 Sleepaway Camps more than I should have because I was expecting just nothing but bad things.
Yeah.
It's the exact opposite.
Right.
I was entertained by those first 2 movies, and to a much lesser degree, the 3rd movie.
Right.
I was expecting to at least be entertained by this, to kind of not be tempted to look down at my phone constantly, to not want to slap the main characters around. This was just... There was not one likable character in this entire movie. The plot twists were super obvious right from the get-go. And I don't have anything really good to say about this.
This movie is a goddamned shame because you had Felissa Rose coming back to the franchise, which is something that fanboys, and let's be honest, only fans of the original are going to watch this movie, which is something fanboys wanted. They wanted her to come back, right? Here's the problem. They took the worst character imaginable and made him the lead. They have this character named Alan, who's an overweight, possibly mentally challenged kid who bullies all the other smaller kids at Camp Monaby, but in turn he's bullied by his own peers and everyone else.
And you know what? I don't normally say this about bullies, but they did a good thing by torturing this kid.
And
because he was just an absolute shitheel.
And you know what? You would think that fact would make Alan out to be a sympathetic character, but he's he's such an annoying and irredeemable jerk. You just feel indifferent towards it.
Well, not only that, but you would also think that maybe he's the one that is killing all the people. But it's pretty. Let's put it this way: Gene Simmons' makeup in Too Young to Die was more convincing than the cops' makeup in this movie.
Right. I was never led to believe that Alan was the killer because it seems like every scene with Alan ends with him running off, screaming and crying because someone was mean to him and yelling, "And your ass stinks." Because that's his ultimate cut down. This happens in the movie approximately 48 times. Like, every single scene he's in, that's how it ends. And, like, he's got a crush on the hottest girl in the camp, which, of course, is a problem if you're a big, annoying goober and you've got sweat stains all over the T-shirt you never change. Of course, his fellow campers use this infatuation against him to pull pranks on him. And this is the whole fucking movie. Like, the whole movie is this kid. And you're like, no. What about Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3? They knew everybody's tuning in to see Angela. So why you decided to the very last fucking scene of the movie to properly have Angela in it, I will never know. And this was made, written and directed by the original writer-director of the original Sleepaway Camp.
I think it's because he wanted to have another shock ending that we didn't see coming. Except, again, you could tell what was going on right from the get-go. It was clearly a woman dressed up as a male cop in a fake beard. Clearly that was going to be Angela. Clearly she's the one doing all the killing. There's no suspense in this movie. And it's all badly acted. There's nothing, absolutely nothing in this movie that's clever. The special effects are hammy.
That disguise.
There's a reason why even Shudder isn't streaming this.
Right. That disguise. She might as well have been wearing a Groucho Marx mustache and nose and glasses.
Yes.
For as effective as that was. Like, it's so stupid. Yeah. Shudder is streaming all the other ones and not this one. And you would think they would just, have them all. But even they know that this one is the worst.
Mm-hmm.
The ending is the best part of the entire movie. Like,
are you using finger quotes when you say best part of the movie? I can't tell.
Yeah, I am. Well, I mean, yes and no, because so we see Angela was the cop the whole time at the end, and she kind of grimaces and laughs. And she's so charismatic in the brief 45 seconds that she's on screen, you're left to wonder, what were you thinking?
Why didn't you just have her throughout the entire movie?
Absolutely. Like, seriously, she was on screen for 45 seconds and barely did anything, and she was more charismatic than everybody else in the movie.
Literally all she did was reveal herself and have the exact same facial expression as the last shot in the first movie.
Yep.
That's all she did as the character of Angela revealed.
Yeah. We do have some returns from the original. Ricky, her cousin, comes back.
He's a stupid dude bro from the Jersey Shore working construction.
And Ronnie comes back from the original. He's like my favorite character in this movie because his line deliveries are so fucking awful. He's like oh my God. He's like Tony Danza if Tony Danza forgot how to act. And even Tony Danza's not a great actor. I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying that Ronnie is like Tony Danza with the New York Italian accent, like pumped to 100. It's so bad that everything about this movie is awful.
Well, I knew from the opening credits that it was going to be bad because it had Vincent Pastore in it.
Yeah.
If it's not The Sopranos and it has Vincent Pastore, you know it's going to be a shit show.
Yeah. Wasn't he Big Pussy or something?
He was.
Yes, he was. What a name. Let's see.
I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say that this might be the worst, least enjoyable movie that we've. Yeah, I want to say that this is worse than any of the Leprechaun movies, even.
I would agree.
Because even the Leprechaun movies, I can imagine somebody getting stoned or drunk and enjoying that. I can't see how anybody would find this movie entertaining or worthwhile.
I would agree with that, and that's saying a lot because Leprechaun Origins is pretty goddamn awful. But this was definitely worse. I agree with that. There is a movie called Caesar and Otto's Summer Camp Massacre,
Okay.
in which Felissa Rose plays a camp counselor named Carrie, who is insinuated to be Angela. I tried to watch it, and I just couldn't. Even my dedication to this podcast has its limits. It's like it was filmed on a camcorder that your parents had in their basement closet for the last 20 years. And it just came out in 2012. Like, the film quality was that bad. I'm like, I can't deal with this. And it was supposed to be a comedy of some sort. I don't know. I'm like, well, no, I'm not. In 1980.
That's too bad, because I kind of would have liked to have seen a parody of a parody.
Yeah, I think that's what it's supposed to be. And who fucking knows? Maybe it's great. I just couldn't get over the film quality, the amateur aspect of it, I guess. In 1989, there was a movie called Son of Sleepaway Camp. And it was
Really?
Yeah, it was released overseas. It has nothing to do with the franchise whatsoever. It was just meant to capitalize on the franchise. It's about a caveman. So,
Okay.
yeah.
That makes complete sense, I guess.
Yeah. There were a number of proposed Sleepaway Camp sequels, which I will now describe to you. And I'll you tell me, Tomko, if you would have liked to see this or not.
Okay.
Sleepaway Camp Angel of Death. This was going to be written by Fritz Gordon, who wrote 2 and 3. He wanted to continue the franchise with number 4, called Angel of Death. It was described as a fusion of Friday the 13th and the Breakfast Club, with Angela becoming a high school teacher and being the head of detention at that school.
Okay, I would give it a shot.
Yeah, I guess it would depend on whether or not Pamela Springsteen was coming back. Like, I could only see her doing that. Sleepaway Camp Summer Stock. In 1989, this was proposed as a 4th installment. It was going to take place at a theater that was built on the site of Camp Arawak from the first movie. And in an interesting twist, the theater plays a musical production of Angela's life, with Angela herself auditioning for the role of Angela.
I'm less inclined on that one, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's not all. The plan was for the film to end with a battle between Felissa Rose's Angela and Pamela Springsteen's Angela. The two Angelas.
Yeah, I'm still gonna pass.
You would not want to see Angela on Angela action?
I would, but you'd have to wade through a lot of shit to get there.
I mean, I can believe, but I should write fan fiction in which Sleepaway Camp crosses over with Friday the 13th.
You would figure it'd be a natural combination, yeah.
Yeah. Sleepaway Camp Berserk. This was a more recent proposal. It opens up with Angela, 40 years old, in prison, where she is executed by lethal injection. Camp New Horizons has been turned into a camp for troubled teens, and 12 teens enter the camp the day she's executed. And what happens from there, Tomko? Can you guess?
My guess is Angela kills them all.
Yeah, the spirit of Angela.
Oh, God.
Possesses one of the teens, or she comes back from the dead and kills them all. Yep. You're right. Pass. Sleepaway Camp Reunion 3D.
Okay, I'm already kind of leery at the 3D gimmick.
Okay, this was going to be a follow-up to Return to Sleepaway Camp.
Nope.
Written by Robert Hiltzik again. It would feature Felissa Rose back as Angela and blah, blah, blah. But in 3D.
Nope. Pass.
Yeah. I think this is a dead franchise at this point.
I could see it being rebooted.
You could
honestly.
reboot it. Yeah. I mean, I don't usually agree with rebooting franchises, but I feel like this one would be okay. Like with Halloween.
Well, yeah, because this one isn't like a sacred property that people, a large amount of people, I'm sure there's somebody out there that is devoted to this series, but not enough people to where I think there'd be a massive outrage.
Yeah. Like when Friday the 13th was rebooted a few years ago. That was completely unnecessary. You watch that movie and you're like, well, this could have just been a sequel. You didn't have to reboot it. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, the same thing with that Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboots. They're just too slick for their own good. But I think that this might benefit from some kind of updating. I don't know if you could get away with the same kind of story elements these days, but it'd be interesting to see what people could do with this, especially if they lean into the comedy aspect of it.
Yeah, I think that's what you would have to do. I think
have a crossover between Sleepaway Camp and Meatballs. I'd watch that.
Where can people find you, Tomko?
You can find me on a little podcast called Jake and Tom Conquer the Group. And it's been described as the conversations you overhear from the other end of the bar between two drunken dorks. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, just about anywhere you can find a podcast. If you want to reach out to me, I'm on Twitter at The Drunken Dork and on Facebook at Jake and Tom Conquer the Group.
You can find me at M Retail Slave, or on the Facebook, you can join our Facebook group, Misbro Retail Slave. Just search it. Misbro Retail Slave is a big dumb comedy show. And by the time you hear this, God help me, like, you should have been treated to a whole bunch of episodes of this and Misbro Retail Slave. I've got 8 podcasts just sitting here ready to be edited and no time to do it.
You've got them banked up and you just can't find the motivation to. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
It's been 2020, folks.
Yes, indeed. Eventually, we'll be here for you next time talking about Darkman. And Halloween this year is going to be fun. We're going to be doing a bunch of stuff. We're going to be talking about some obscure horror movies. We're going to be talking about the Halloween franchise. And you brought this up last week, and I think it's very appropriate for our next franchise to talk about Psycho.
Yes.
So, yes, there was multiple Psycho movies, believe it or not.
There's a lot in that franchise besides just the Norman Bates stuff. It's expansive.
Really?
Yeah, because you have the television show Bates Motel.
Yeah.
There was a TV movie called Return to Bates Motel.
Was there really?
Yeah. Or maybe it was called Psycho House or something. I just remember there was a made-for-TV movie on NBC in like the early 90s.
Oh my God.
There was the Gus Van Sant remake that is one of the most hated movies ever.
Yeah.
There was, I would consider this part of the franchise, a movie called Hitchcock starring Helen Mirren and Anthony Hopkins about the making of Psycho.
Okay. Yeah, I think that counts.
It's just a wide-ranging topic that you can really get lost in.
And, of course, it's like it helped give birth to the slasher movies that we know and love.
Absolutely. Without Psycho, you wouldn't have Halloween. Without Halloween, you wouldn't have the horror industry as we know it.
Yep. There is a movie that we're going to do for Halloween that I want you to watch from the 40s. Or 50s, maybe. And I think it predates Psycho, obviously. And I think
Is it Peeping Tom?
It is not Peeping Tom. But I think it's definitely was an inspiration for all the slasher movies to come. So we're going to cover that, too, eventually.
You have my attention, sir. I'm looking forward to finding out what it is.
Okay. We'll see you next time, folks.
All right.
Bye-bye.
See ya.